guest. He's going to introduce himself. My name is Talib, one of your co-hosts here.
Yeah, I'm Curtis, the other co-host. We got
And we got the legend.
yes.
Ooh, the legend, no pressure. All right, my name is Alshermond Singleton, Al for short.
Right.
I am Irvington High School, probably most importantly, made it out of Irvington High School graduate. Went on to play at Temple University and uh, get an education from Temple University. Then was fortunate enough to get drafted to the NFL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the fourth round. 6 years there, Dallas Cowboys for another 6 years, and that was my NFL career for 10 years. So, which
Yeah.
felt like 15 because I had Bill Parcells, and that put some years on my life. So it's
So wait, Al, clarify that for me, because you said 6 years with the Bucks, 6 years with the Cowboys.
oh, I'm sorry, did I say 6 years? I meant it's 4 years with the Cowboys.
Got it. Got it.
It
There,
felt
there
like
we go.
10.
There we
It
go.
felt like
Yeah,
10.
yeah, yeah.
But
Hey, Liv, you was about to say
So, all right. So, you actually covered a little bit of what we were going to dive into. Drafted in the fourth round by the Bucks. Went to Temple University. Now, one of the things that I saw that was great about your journey in football at Temple University is you still hold the single season record for forced fumbles. You did that in your sophomore year. Did you remember that?
I did. I didn't think anybody else did because
Yeah, buddy.
they ain't mentioned it as
Yeah.
simple. You done did your homework. Okay,
Yeah, just a little bit, man. Just a
a
little
little
bit.
bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
Let's start off from the beginning though, because each one of us are from Irvington, New Jersey.
that's right.
Went to Irvington High, Jersey stand up. And what was your journey like? What was your inspiration when it came to playing football in the small city of Irvington, New Jersey?
okay. So I'll tell you. Come from a single parent household, but in that sense, always knew who my dad was and where he was, and he was always in my life. You know, but I lived with my mom. So back then, if you got out of line, my dad was right there, phone call away. And
Yeah.
also for fishing trips and all that other stuff. But um, I got into sports in general because both my parents were athletes, and I mean, serious athletes. Where my dad he went to Irvington Tech at that time.
Mhm.
My mother went to Irvington High School. So I don't know if you guys remember a gym teacher named Miss Zangari. Um, Gay Zangari is her name. One of the few female gym teachers that they had around that time.
Mhm.
But she went to school with my mother, and she would always talk about how good of an athlete my mother was. So that put a lot of pressure on me. But my mother
Yeah.
would tell me how good of an athlete she was when I was growing up, and that put a lot of pressure on me. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately, she got hit by a car and, had pins in her knee and everything like that. She was still a good athlete, but just couldn't take it any further.
Yeah.
My father was a boxer and,
Mhm.
like a very good boxer. His dream was to go into the Olympics. And, a lot of things cut short. They had me, and I kind of felt like dreams deferred kind of went into me, with
Yeah.
no pressure from them. But it was like my dad's an athlete. He's got trophies. You know, he's tougher than I am, and I'm like trying. I'm hoping to attain to his level of toughness. And my mother's an athlete, and this and that. So that's where that push, that drive, really came from. And also, when we grew up, everybody wanted to be something. And a lot of times it was a basketball player, it was a football player, it was something.
Right.
And, I don't care, you know, what it was, the biggest person, they grabbing a basketball and you can't do this, you can't. So that competition level, that was just, I don't know, that was just instilled in a lot of guys that we grew up with, especially, in me in general. So
Facts,
that
man.
was the thing.
Yeah, it seems like in Irvington, in particular, I don't know how it was in other communities, but in Irvington in particular, a lot of times we wanted to be in the family business, whatever that was. If you came from a family with athletes, you wanted to be an athlete. Unfortunately, a lot of people came from families with drug dealers.
Yeah.
And that's the legacy they sort out. I want to keep it positive though. So I want to get back to
no.
this athlete thing.
But since you said that, but even the drug dealers, I can remember they see us going down the street playing basketball. Let me see the ball. Let me get that. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? They showing you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just always something athletic.
Right.
But,
Right. But were they wanting to play or were they trying to recruit? That's the question.
Good point.
Because there were a lot of great athletes, you know, that was with us, that grew up with all of us, you know, that didn't, you know, follow the path or go as deep as their talent could have taken them because they got sidetracked.
Yeah.
You know, one way or another. But I mean, Irvington overall, though, you talk about the competitive nature of you know, the culture there, man. That is for real. That is for real. And I can remember just kind of playing sports on the streets and stuff like that. You look forward to those matchups. like
Yes.
yesterday, what happened today, it ain't gonna be like that.
Exactly. Sure. Yes.
Sure.
So at what age did you actually start playing football?
Okay, so you know, like you said, that competitive nature and stuff. Like I always played like, you know, street ball. You know, it was nothing for it to snow, and here come five of the fellas. They come into the block. We going over to Grove Street. We going, you know, up Myrtle Ave. We playing, you know. So it was that, but I didn't play Pop Warner with the Golden Knights, but I did start off in the 8th grade. Because that was when they had the organized program in the middle school. So I went to Myrtle Avenue, and I think they grouped Myrtle Avenue with Union Avenue, the two middle schools. And that was my first taste of organized football in sports, and different than what I thought it would be. You know, my goodness, we had a gym teacher and a guidance counselor coaching the football team. So wasn't a whole lot of technique involved, football technique, you know, but they were there. And it was just put my pads on wrong, you know, I had the butt pad in the front and everything, just just not knowing. So that was my first taste of organized ball. And it was interesting process because it was, you know, they would get locked up because I coached for a while, and certain things you can't do that you can do back in the day. Of course, the bull in the ring. Of course, you know, line up the biggest person, set you in front of them, and say, "All right, make a tackle." Can't do that nowadays, but that was my introduction into tackling. So so that was brought me back. That was an interesting time there in the 8th grade. Yeah, but the first time I put on pads, 8th grade. Yeah.
Nice. So do you feel that was late or early to the sport? Football is a little bit different than other sports where there's less contact. So is that early or is late, or right on time?
So if you had asked me about 20 years ago, it'd have been late because a lot of guys that I played with, you know, at different levels, they started at the Pee Wee League. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nowadays, I would say, no, that's just about right. You know, I would encourage even flag football at a younger age. Once you come up and you understand certain fundamentals, you know, of playing and how your body is, you know, your body's still developing. You know, I wouldn't want to put my kid, you know, not that there's anything wrong, you better have really good coaching, but putting them, you know, the stress on their body, you know, I think like the time that it actually takes now, because now these sports are year round. A lot of these guys, they're dedicated to one sport and they're doing it year round. You know, I just wouldn't want my son or my daughters to get burnt out by any sport. So take your time and, you know, have fun with it. See if you like it. You know, it's like, you know, that's the main thing. They're having fun, not me having fun. So
yeah. So with the football scholarship to Temple University, what was your recruiting like? How did you end up going to Temple?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the story, I'll give you the condensed version. I didn't understand what recruiting was like, in the sense of like, how do you get a scholarship? How do you get noticed? So there was a football coach that actually came to Irvington High School, a guy by the name of Chet Vecchio. He was a heck of a player, still like holds records in the New Jersey Hall of Fame, played linebacker for Seton Hall Prep. But interestingly enough, he was from Irvington, or he's from Irvington when they were the campers. Yeah, go ahead,
I'm
Curtis.
glad you said that, because when you said his name, in my head, I'm like, Irvington is historically an Italian township.
Yes, yes,
And I was thinking, I wonder if he's Italian and what is his tie to Irvington. So I'm glad you answered a question that just popped in my head. But that's awesome, awesome history for
yeah,
the Irvington area. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, uh, give you a little bit about Chet Vecchio. He was a Hall of Fame linebacker at Penn State. They won a national championship, and he played in the NFL. His career cut short due to a knee injury. And it was rare that you hear of anybody from Irvington doing certain things, you know.
Right.
I heard Chris Gatlin, you know. For
Right.
me, it was like growing up, it was like um, James Jones, Derek Gatlin, you know what I mean? Some of the guys, when I was in the eighth grade, they were older, and I'm like, man, those guys are good, you know. But didn't hear like okay, this guy's from the NFL, he's from there, when Chet was there, and he's from Irvington, and his whole demeanor, I guess his approach in life is some sort of intensity, and it's
Mhm.
genuine. So when you're coaching players, one thing I've learned is you always want them to take on your personality.
Mm.
And being Chet is a linebacker, an aggressive personality. Some people on that team, they better be aggressive. They better have that personality, or it's going to be a problem. And he made
Right.
that known. So the recruiting process started when I asked him, like, how do you get recruited? And I can remember him coming in the office, some of the players helping him clean out the office of the former coach. And there were letters stuffed in a file drawer cabinet. All
Mhm.
these letters were from different colleges, East Carolina, Army, from a ton of college, never filled out. So what those are questionnaires. All right.
Mm.
Colleges will send that to different high schools. That's how they did at the time before email. But that's how they got in contact with those players. Whether they were going to go there or not didn't mean you were getting recruited, but that kind of started the process. And these letters were never filled out. So I remember Chet showing us these letters. He was like, this belongs to such and such, and it had the players' names on it. So
Wow.
never filled out,
Wait,
so
so
when we got those, go ahead.
that means that there were players who might have been of interest to colleges, but
Absolutely.
but the coaches never responded to the inquiries.
Never responded. And it's from every level. It was, you get that Division 3, Division 2.
Yeah.
And the thing that sparked it for me is when I got a questionnaire from Clemson, and
Okay.
I'm like, yo, Clemson, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this is real. And I started getting them, and coach, he would tell me, like, this is how he would tell all the guys, this is how you fill this out, this is what you want to do. All of this, your weight, you know what I mean, your name, your height, and everything.
Did it
Which
ask
which
about did it ask about your
your
parents? Like the
It
men,
did.
like
Your parents' name. Yep, yep.
did
Not
it?
whether you were. I don't even remember if it asked whether you were from a single parent household or not. It may have. I mean, I know it gets to that later on, but it wasn't that detailed. But it starts the ball rolling, and
Mm.
then they'll actually start to send that to your house because they'll ask for your address. You know,
Mm.
Yeah.
ask for your game schedule, like what conference, when do you play, and this and that. And the funny thing about it is they'll ask, what teams do you like? Pick your 5 favorite colleges. So the thing I would always do is, if it's Clemson, I can't remember what. I don't know if Clemson was if it was an ACC at that time.
ACC at the time.
It was ACC. So I had on my wall in my bedroom I had a list of all the colleges, all their the divisions that they're in, their division rivals. So I'm like, okay, if Clemson, just say if Rutgers had approached me, then I'm like, okay, then they're in the Big East. I like Miami. I like Virginia Tech. I picked the top 5 schools. You know
Right.
what I mean? That
I
are
see.
rivals.
That's smart
And
though. That's
yeah, and it's like, okay, I would think that Rutgers would say, okay, he likes these schools, and that's in our conference, so we need to keep recruiting him. That was just my mindset.
Yeah.
But that was I think that was the process of getting it started. Um, when I really, I think after my junior year, I got some honors, made all area, and I wanted to get an idea of what was going on because my mother was asking if I wanted to, go to a community college and stuff. And my mind was, I'm going to the University of Miami. I was saying that since I was in the 7th grade. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
she was like, okay, be realistic. And I'm like, wait a minute,
back.
realistic? Yeah, she.
Why don't you love me? That's what my kids would say.
So I had I had called up Chet Polavecchio one night, and I was just asked him. I said, "What does it take to get a scholarship?" And he was like, "No, maybe we should have had this conversation before." And he was like, "Alshermond, I'm gonna tell you." He said, "You got to be damn good." And then he said, "Look," he said, "you keep working the way you working." He said, "I know what it takes to get there, and I'll get you there." He said, basically, he's like, "You got what it takes, certain things." But it made me understand, like, to get recruited, you know, uh, very similar to the NFL, you have to have what they're looking for: certain height, certain weight, certain size. It's just in high school they have to imagine, are you going to grow? Are you going to, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
what can we see? What can we see out of you in the body that you're in now? How are you going to progress? So that's when it comes to colleges coming to the high school. So colleges started to come to the high school um, during my junior year, and I met a guy from Clemson, the defensive coordinator at the time was named Ron Dickerson, one of the few black coordinators that was in NCAA football. So he was recruiting me from Clemson, and Chet knew him because they had a Penn State affiliation.
Mhm.
And and Chet would always say, like, listen, you need to come in, see him, and shake his hand, because he always said I had a strong handshake, that I was one of the strongest kids that he met. And he'd say, I want you to shake his hand and this and that. So, and I guess they could see, like, on my frame that I could put weight on. So that's where, okay, then, he could be a player. Let's see what he does his senior year. The confidence came when I did it was like a 4-day camp at Penn State. And, I really did well. I impressed. And since Chet was almost a legend at Penn State, Joe Paterno, I actually got an opportunity to meet him. And this coaches told him that I did well. And, that started the recruiting process. Um, Temple didn't come into play until their staff was fired and they hired Ron Dickerson. Now, Ron Dickerson, that time during my senior year, I started getting more notice. Rutgers had offered me a scholarship, which was really interesting because Rutgers, Dick Jameson and Doug Graber, they would be on the phone, and this was a recruiting technique, their ploy. They would talk to me a little bit, but they'd ask, can you put your mother on the phone? I'm like, okay, put my mother on the phone. They're on the phone for about 50 minutes or so. All right. All right. Then, and this happened, like, I think they had a time they can only call a certain time during the week. They would do this weekly. Like, hey, is your mother there? I'm like, yeah. Oh, hold on. Okay. And I'm like, and then, my mother get off the phone. She hangs it up. I'm like, did they not want to talk? No, I spoke to them. I like them. I'm like, wait a minute. So their thing was, it's like Joe Paterno was, you get the mamas on board. You good,
Mhm.
You do it.
you know what I mean? You good to go.
Yeah.
Almost like coming to America. You getting good with the papa? No, it was you getting good with the mama. You good to go. So, so they got my mom on board. So it was like, no brainer that I have to at least go there and see what they're all about. But like I said, Ron Dickerson got a recruiter, got a head job at Temple, And so I said, okay, but then Chet got a job there at Temple as the linebacker coach after the season.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm like, I ain't even look at, I didn't know where Temple was. And one of my boys, he was Mervin. He was just like, look, he's like, Temple they got one of the worst ghettos in America, Diamond Street Projects, this and that. And I'm like, really?
Wait, before you go any further, I gotta pause and ask you one quick question.
Yeah.
You're talking about Temple's location and stuff like that. Which at that point in your life, which NFL football team did you like?
Oh, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
Pittsburgh Steelers,
That's fair.
without a doubt. Yeah, that came from the first time I started watching football. It's like I realized in school everybody had a football team, and mostly everybody, they either like the Giants or they like the Cowboys.
Right.
There was a game that was on. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, or Washington, because those were the teams that you could actually see the most in that market.
Exactly, and nobody liked the Jets. No shade to anybody now, but it seems like it's the same now as it was back then.
Yeah.
But so it was a game that went with Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys. And I said, whoever wins this game, that's going to be my team. And I was praying that the Cowboys would win, and they lost. The Steelers lost. So I was like, God, I got to stick to my word. I was, I was like 10 years old back then, and I always stuck with them. And then realized that the Steelers were really good in the 70s and they won Super Bowls. So I'm like, all right, okay, I made a pretty good choice.
Sure.
Yeah. But so that's when I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the Jets are like the GoBots of football, and that's the problem. So only people our age will get that reference.
What are we doing? Really? That's what we're talking about? The GoBots? Like,
yeah, they are the GoBots of football. The Giants are the Transformers.
Yeah. I would say that.
Mean. That is mean, man.
Hey, I'm not here to make friends. I'm just here to be real. All right, sorry, Al.
No, but yeah, that was my choice. That was the recruiting process. I went on 3 recruiting visits because it got to a point where nowadays, I don't know how these guys do it, but you only get a chance to take 5 official college visits where they'll pay for you to go out. If it's local, they'll pay for your parents, their hotel stay and everything like that. I visited Rutgers was my first visit. Tulane University was my second visit.
Okay.
And one thing Chet asked me, he said, just before you make a decision, let us be your last visit. So I said, all right, fine. Temple was my last visit because I had, thoughts of going to North Carolina and other schools like that. And Penn State was high on my list. And a lot of schools, once they found out the affiliation between Chet and Penn State, they stopped recruiting. It was like, okay, you're going to probably go to Penn State. So why even waste our, why waste our time? But there was other schools like Wisconsin. There was, my goodness, there was Kansas Blue, the Jayhawks and all this. And I was like, oh man, I was getting letters from, the cheerleaders sending us stuff and all kinds. I'm like, oh man, this is cool. Iowa.
Yeah, what the cheerleaders send you? I'm just curious. No, never mind. You know what? You married. Let's just move on.
Another recruiting ploy. It's hi, I'm Jennifer from such and such. Any person that's close to the area where the player lives. So she might be in Pennsylvania. I live in Pennsylvania. It's a great place here, great transition, this and that. And, also get a chance to visit here and I look forward to meeting you and this and that. So that's that was their way of like, okay, I got a girl writing me from a college and she's close to the area.
You're like 17 years old. You're like, hey, what's, how you get my address? And
but, like when you just said the female writing you the letter, the first thought that came to my mind, of course, this is all our age bracket here, is the great movie The Program. right?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Omar Epps.
Yep.
He gets the
Holly
recruiting.
Berry. Yeah.
Holly
Mhm.
Berry is the first person that he sees. Hey man, hey, just going to sign me up. I'm going here, man. You look, whatever you gotta.
I'm
Hey,
done.
this way I'm going.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Which one had Tyra Banks? There was another one that
Higher learning. Higher
That's
learning.
what
learning.
it
Yeah.
was. Yeah. I was like,
Mhm.
there's a similar one with Tyra Banks, but yeah.
Yeah. So
And
that's
they
how you end up going to Temple.
Yeah. Yeah. Temple was well because it's not just because of Chet went there, but Chet told me, he said, "Listen, you're not going to Iowa. You know, you're not going to Kansas. Like, do you even know what Kansas is?" He's just like, he's like, listen. He was like, "You're a kid from Irvington." He was like, "And I know you can do anything." He said, "But you want your mother to be able to come and see your games." He was like, "Your mother is not getting on a flight to go and see you play at Kansas." He's like, you're not going to Tulane to play in front of 1,300 people in that stadium, the Superdome." He was like, "That's how bad Tulane was then." And I went for the visit, for the food. I felt bad afterwards because there were some good brothers down there that just was like, "You can help us win and this and that." And I had a heart to tell them, like, "I'm not coming down here in New Orleans, and Bourbon Street is nice, but I'm not. This ain't my thing."
right.
So I realized, like, it's Rutgers or it's Temple or somewhere close in the vicinity, Maryland or somewhere. You know what I mean? Because I'm not gonna go that far away from home. If something happens, I need to get back. Car ride away, a train ride away. Like, that's who I am. So Chet kind of made me understand that. He was like, "Think about it. Like, these girls, they're writing you letters, but think about it. What's important?" Like, you ain't going to no college because Holly Berry writing you, maybe.
Right, right.
But
I would have went. I'm sorry. I can study anything. I can study anything. It don't matter.
You're like, "I'm
I
there."
don't care what programs y'all got. She's still here. What year she in?
So, but yeah, I once I got a chance to visit Temple, it seemed to be the right place for me. Rutgers was nice. Rutgers felt cold. Rutgers felt like it was just like suit and tie. And and I was almost intimidated. When I went to Temple, the head coach was black. It was just a representation of me, the athletic academic advisor. She was a woman. She was a black woman of color. She was fantastic and just had a relationship with all of the players that you didn't quite see or get that feel at Rutgers.
Right.
And my mother had the idea that she would be on campus, saying, "I'm gonna make sure he gets up and does that." And I'm like, wait a minute, like, no, like, they had her thinking that she can enroll. Like, "How many credits did you take in college? We finished school here." Like, oh no.
Oh man.
But yeah, Temple was close enough to home where I can get there, but far enough away where I can kind of develop on my own.
Yeah.
And it felt just like Newark,
Right.
times two.
And Philly. Yeah.
Philly was a little
Yeah.
bigger, a little crazy around that time. But I met I chose sport recreation management. Instead of some of I guess the generic things that they push athletes into when they don't know what they want to do. Accounting, God knows why, because if you're not into that, don't push someone into that. But it was accounting, it was business, and that was the thing. I was like, okay, most of our guys do this, or criminal justice. No shade to any of the careers that do this, but you really got to know what you want. I like sports. I like working with kids. And sport recreation management, that was kind of the foundation of where they were going. But it was so broad where you can venture off into other things, and that's scouting and different things, working with professional teams.
Yeah.
So the head of that department, woman by the name of the late Dolores Andy, she was great. And the brother Jeffrey Monte, the thing about them is when we sat down, it was myself and two other guys. One other guy was from Hanover, New Jersey, and another guy was I think he might have been from Texas somewhere. But we spoke to them, and the one thing they told us, they said, "You guys seem different, like like humble, and that was just the recruiting process. Because from what I've heard, you guys know that some guys come in and it's the world belongs to them. You know what I mean? It's all about what they did, not knowing that everybody there that's getting recruited did something, and you're all on the same level. You know what I mean? And they don't care about what you did. Like, this is for us. This is school. So they said, you guys come in here and you talk. You seem genuine, and they let us know. The one woman, she said, I'm gonna tell you why guys don't graduate here, why our black men don't graduate that are athletes. And she put it out there. She said they think that the world is theirs, but and they show up for class sometimes they don't. They think they're going to the NFL, and when they don't, that's when the rush comes in for them to get into school to make up the work that they didn't do in the past. And she said, I promise you this. She said, if you guys do what we ask you to do, right, you get to school, you get to class on time, because nobody's going to call you and get you down there. She said, I will make sure that you graduate. She was like, but when I say this, that means that you're going to work. She was like, but I'm going to make sure you graduate. When I heard that, so I'd never been afraid of work. Right. All I wanted is an opportunity, somebody to, believe in us. And it was like, man, it was just eye opening, because everything else was, from what I heard, college is hard. College is this. They was just real. Like, college is about time management. College is about, understanding, what you need to be in that adult, just understanding the path that it takes to move forward and humbling yourself. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. You've got to work. You've got to admit, I don't know what's going on here. I didn't know we didn't debate in class at Irvington. I actually heard a debate in the classroom.
Right.
Like, wow. So it was just different. But, the professor said, we're going to expose you to this. We understand where you young men come from. So it was that love that I felt there. And I'm like, oh man, this is what the city of brotherly love is supposed to feel like. That's what I understood that now. And then the brother, Jeffrey Monte, who is still one of my mentors to this day, he's like, okay, we said bye to Dolores Andy. Brother Jeffrey took us out into the hallway, and he said, listen, he said, I understand what you said about, I understand what she said about not getting you guys up for class and doing all this stuff. He said, I'm gonna let you know right now. He said, the minute one of y'all miss class and you come here, y'all in our program, he said, I'm gonna come to that dorm room. He said, I'm gonna kick y'all ass. Like, okay,
he gonna threaten football players? What's up?
Yeah. He was like, because he said, we don't take this lightly. We say that we're going to graduate. We're going to work, you know what I mean? Just as hard as you to get you out of here. You know what I mean? And have you be productive. He said, you're not going to just come in here and skate. He was like, if we find out we're working as hard as you, that's going to be a problem. I mean, harder than you, that's a problem. Yeah. He said, you guys playing ball, we understand how things go. He said, but you got to put forth the effort. He said, I see something in you. He's like, don't make no mistakes about it. I'll come to that dorm room and I'll bring your butt to class. So he was just like, all right, that's perfect for for me at least. I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest reason why I went to Temple University.
Nice.
The biggest reason. There were some other reasons, like there wasn't Holly Berry's on there, but it was close.
Same tribe. A whole tribe of Holly Berries. A whole tribe. Look, real talk. This is a real quick story, and I'll keep it short. I can say this now. I went to Seton Hall. My girlfriend, while I was there, was on the track team. They had a track meet at Seton Hall. I went and I watched the meet. There was one athlete that stood out to me besides my girlfriend. She ran for Temple. I thought about transferring. I don't know what her personality was like, but we'll never know. For a brief moment, she had me, man. She had me.
Oh God.
I was running next to her, like,
You're right.
what you doing after this? No, I'm kidding.
In your mind, you was right there next.
Yeah. If I could catch her, I probably would have. Nah, but, most of that is true. So, so it sounds like you were really bought in already on the academic side when it came to your college education. Like you didn't go there thinking I'm an athlete. This is a stepping stone to me showcasing my talents on a professional scale. You were looking at it like I'm here. I'm going to make the most of this because of the people in your life. I'm going to make the most of this because there is life for me beyond an NFL career, and so I want to get the most out of this opportunity. So, were you able to complete your degree before going to the draft, or like how did you manage the other professional career that you did beyond football?
So I said one thing I always did was I was always able to look at other people and see the success that they had and try to follow those footsteps. There's a reason why I joined junior ROTC, because most of the football players that were successful, they were in junior ROTC. And it was rough. It was humbling, and I keep mentioning humbling because you couldn't have any facial hair. And it started to come in nice when I was in high school. Grooming, I was, by my junior year, I was like, all right, I might be all right, So,
you're only doing the 11th grade with a goatee.
It wasn't connecting, but it started to come in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I had to shave all that off, and it was like, all right, that's what it is then, All right. But no, I knew that I knew that going to. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Well, I was asking about like did you get your degree at Temple during that first?
I did. So what I would do, I would look at some of the players that graduated. There was one player in particular, a guy by the name of Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson was drafted in the second round to the Washington Redskins. So I was a freshman coming in. He was a senior. He was like the it guy. The guy's name, he was the guy at Temple University, offensive lineman.
The second round. That's pretty.
Second round.
That's what I'm saying. That's a big deal.
A bigger deal was he had graduated already. He was already in grad school, and I'm like, how did that happen? I'm like, Trey, like, how did you do that? He was like, so he was like, they pay for our school, right? He was like, no matter what we do, he's like, in the summer school, summertime, there's sessions. And I was like, oh, you got summer sessions? He was like, yeah, there are 2 summer sessions. He said, I went to every summer session. And, he's like, I didn't load up on classes. I took enough that were, I was comfortable with and, got it done. But I went to summer school every year. And once you graduate, he enrolled into graduate classes. Now, I took that same mindset of this belongs to me. And this is what, professors would say, what Chet would say. It would say that, listen, nothing's guaranteed. NFL is not guaranteed. The only thing that should be guaranteed is your degree. Okay. They mentioned a 4-year scholarship, but it's actually a 5-year scholarship.
Right.
So you have 4 years to play. Yep. 5-year scholarship.
If your red shirt year, if you have one, right?
If you have one, absolutely. So you get an opportunity to complete your degree. So I actually finished in 3 years, but I did not go to grad school. Okay. And that's kind of you say like, but
I'm just thinking like you could have got a master's.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
But I'll tell you like this: my athletic academic advisor, she came to me and she said, Alshermond, she's like, we got a problem. I'm like, what? She was like, you getting ready to graduate? And I said, she said, I'm gonna tell you right now, your head coach is not gonna let you play if you graduate. She was like, listen. And for me, I was like, you're not gonna tell me that I can't do something, you know what I mean, that I want to do. She was good. She was like, listen, She was like, I could believe you can do anything you want to do. But she said, but just think about it. You did all of this work so that you can, so that you can have, a senior year stress free. She was like, you're gonna have to take some elective courses that are fun courses. All right. And then after the football season is over with, you're doing your senior internship, and then you'll do all your stuff there. You only have like two things to do. And she said you can get ready for the draft or whatever, whatever comes your way. She was like, but I'm gonna tell you like this. She said, she said the player Trey Johnson, the coach was mad at him because he couldn't make every practice because he was in grad school. And at that time you didn't have the internet, so you're not taking no courses on your own terms. Most of those courses were in
Right.
the afternoon to evening time, and they felt like he took advantage of the situation, that the player took advantage of the situation. And from my standpoint, is you're a good enough player. For one, I don't think you need to practice all the time, but you've done so much for the university, and this is yours. You should be selfish. You should have this opportunity to do what you want to do. But she made it be known, like she said, he talked bad about him going into the draft, and I'm gonna tell you right now, you are not going to play if you decide to enroll in grad school. And I was just like, wow. So,
Give me one, give me
I
one sec. Sorry,
yeah,
one sec, Al.
yeah.
Lid, are you still recording?
Yes.
Because I got a message popped up over here that said your device stopped recording because you had a call or something coming in.
Yeah. It just reconnected. Yeah, it just reconnected.
Okay, I'm
You
sorry.
want me to go over it, back over anything? Or we good?
I waited until when I put my finger up, I waited until like there was a pause. So
Hmm.
uh, um, uh, where you was about to take us, I think you could pick up from there. You was
Okay.
Yeah, you were saying that the coach was mad at Trey
The
for his lack of availability.
lack of availability, and felt like, and it's really at that time, the way head coaches believe, it's really a military mindset. The
Mm,
way, I don't care if it's a systematic, the way, systemic, the way the coaches thought, you know, the player does what I say. You
mhm.
know,
Mm.
some players, they have a mindset of no. And that was how Trey was. Trey was like, no, forget that. This is what I'm doing. I need this for class. This is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? What you gonna do to me? And there was a lot behind that. It was other things behind that where they weren't very pleased with this head coach coming in because of some off the field issue that happened, and he took a fraternity side as opposed to theirs because he was a fraternity member. So that was something that they had a beef with that. You know what I mean? Had
Yeah,
nothing to do with us. But the point was made clear that I'm not gonna, that's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna take advantage of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's some of the things that you don't hear about. You know what I mean? Unless you're in it.
did
Um,
so so again, I went to Seton Hall. Our football team is
mhm.
undefeated, just so you know. Um,
Okay.
with with the classes there with me there, like one of the things when it comes to grad schools, they tell you that it's not always the best look to get a grad degree from the same school you got your undergrad, because
Mm,
a lot of times they want you to have sort of a sort of diverse experiences, right? You
yeah.
spent a few years here getting a degree, spend a couple of years somewhere else getting another degree. That way you have sort of broader experience. But
Mhm.
what they did offer, like Seton Hall, for example, offered was for me, I was a business student. If I would have gone into an MBA program, I would have qualified to graduate from that program a little earlier because some of my undergrad business class courses overlap with the grad offering. So I'm thinking
Right.
about your scenario. Was there an option where, and I'm just thinking in hindsight, of course, you did what you did, and I want to hear that story. But was there an option presented to you where you could stay, you're in your third year, you already fulfilled your requirements to get your bachelor's, but instead of going for your bachelor's and going into a bunch of elective classes, could you have taken classes that you were interested in pursuing in grad school but take the undergrad version of them so that they transfer over to grad school when you get into your 5th year. That makes sense?
That makes sense. No, and I didn't even, that was a question that never came up. Um, the way I felt was that, I sacrificed for the university.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of success winning wise. So as far as, recruiting, I made myself readily available for everything that they wanted. And I thought about this selfishly, and I was to the point, I felt disrespected, but, fortunately for me, I was always able to pick up the phone and reach out to people. A lot of times I would reach out to Chet, and he would say, listen, he's like, I understand, he's like, you're going to graduate. He's like, that's what I wanted for you, so you're going to graduate. He was like, it was to the point he was saying, why put yourself through that stress of being in grad school during the season? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you can focus on football. He said, that's the bright side of it. He said, don't worry about feeling like somebody's telling you that you can't do something that you want to do. He was like, because that's where it seems like where it's coming from with you. And it was,
Right.
he was saying, think about the benefit. He was like, you worked this hard, so now you can truly focus on what you want to do, and looked at it from that standpoint. I'm like, all right, you're right. And so he's like, it's a non-issue, you graduate, you'll be fine. Don't even, he's like, it's not even a battle worth having, And
Like he was really good at, as your mentor, he was really good at giving you what you needed to do what you were likely wanting to do anyway. That's
absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
kind of how it sounds, right? I was
Yeah.
just thinking as you're talking about like the stress of grad school while you're playing, NC State just went on that run in March Madness with a
hmm
couple of their key guys in grad school. Like DJ Burns was in grad school. I
Yeah.
think DJ Horn
Yeah.
was also in grad school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I give those guys a lot of credit. And I actually completed grad school later on in life. I was coaching at Fairleigh Dickinson University. And if that was a question, I'm already jumping into that question. And I give those guys a lot of credit. Different from how it would have been back then, because you physically had to be present in those classrooms.
Right.
And physically, you have to write those papers. When I'm writing a paper, I would have to write the paper and then type it. You know what I mean? Or dictate, pay someone to type it for me as I dictate it, or they,
Right.
or they see it, or they just write down they type up what I've written. Um, Grad school was a lot easier for me now. Once I learned the idea what Blackboard meant, you know what I mean? It's not an actual blackboard; it's something on
LMS,
in the system. Yeah.
the learning management system, right?
Yeah. So just to get updated with that. But no, it's a lot easier. It's I think it's more. It's not as regimented. It's more of, it seemed like it was more freedom where, okay, I can communicate with other class members and have a discussion and a debate over different things. And, and there it's more of trying to help you in grad school the way I felt about it. It was almost like you're paying for this. So, okay, we're not out to get you. Where my mindset, I felt like coming out of Irvington was, they might be out to get me. They may not let me graduate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the mindset of other people, I'm paying for this course. You know what I mean? I want to know why I got a C, and so I want to know why. You know what I mean? And that's something that I took away from it. So in approaching grad school, it was, listen, I'm doing all the work here. I'm paying for it through the efforts of recruiting for this university and doing this. So I took it serious, more serious than I did when I was in undergrad, because football came first, and that's what was paying for me. And they made it known. You are an athlete student instead of that student athlete that they always put in front. That ain't the case.
Exactly. Exactly. You got a
Yeah.
class and you have workouts in the weight room right now. We expect you to be at the workouts.
Yeah.
Yes. And even now, right now, with these colleges, what they do is they gear your education program around football.
Yeah.
So they say, okay, this is when you can schedule classes. But right now, this is where you got to block that off. And you have football thing. Okay. So in the morning, you got your workouts, you got your practice. By after you get everything done by 9:30, you probably eat, did what you had to do by 10 o'clock. Now you can start your day. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's like,
And
and you got study hall later. And it seems to work. It's better, it's regimented better, you know, but because when I was there, it was you might have to catch a workout in the morning. If you don't, then you have to get it sometime during the day when the weight room is open in between classes or something like that. Get your lunch if you can, and if you got a class, fine. Make sure it's not interfering with practice. Practice starts at 3:25, 3:15 meeting, 3:40, be dressed out on the field. So nothing should come before that. But as you get closer to your degree, some things conflict, and they try to work it out here and there, depending on who you are.
Yeah.
Because we've had players that had conflicting schedules when I was at Temple, and we were able to work it out. Like, you miss 15 minutes of practice. Okay, hustle up and get down here, this and that. But they would ask, do you need this class? Yeah, we needed to graduate. Okay.
yeah.
Reluctant. All right.
Now you said something that really sort of piqued my interest. You say eat your lunch. Um, when you was getting your meals at Temple, man, did they offer you as a as a student athlete, did they offer you specially prepared meals, like, chef prepared meals because you're on the football team? I mean, Temple is a major
No,
program, so that's why I'm asking.
it's a major program, but even today they still have their challenges. I say it's a major program, and it's a Division I program. Don't get me wrong, but we ate what the other students ate. You
Yeah.
go to different schools. You go to Penn State. You know, that's a difference from you talk about the GoBots. I would say Temple back then they were the GoBots,
Mm.
and the Transformers, the Megatron. Though that was Penn State, the elite university, where they have enough money to say, okay, we can shelter you guys off into a different dorm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Completely separate you from the rest of the student population. You know what I mean? And we'll
Right.
give you the best of the best. Why? Because Penn State, guess what? We're paying for the whole engineering department. We're paying
Right.
for this here. We're paying for this building. That's what we do. We couldn't do that at Temple.
Yeah.
Bill Cosby was making footing the bill for a lot of people, for a
Yeah.
lot of programs.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily the football team.
That's his alma
Um,
mater, right?
Yeah.
yeah, that's
This
his
is
alma mater.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I got a chance a couple of times to hear him speak. He actually came in and gave a pep talk to the team. You
mm,
know, but yeah,
What was that
but
experience like? Was there anything in particular like that Bill kind of conveyed? Any messages, any lessons that he conveyed? Because I understand he got the whatever stuff, the bad stuff, but
yeah,
for a long time, this is America's dad, and he didn't get
absolutely
here. He didn't get there like by chance. He was sharp.
right,
There was a lot of good about him as well, and I'm wondering sort of
absolutely.
he convey a lot of that to you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like you thought you knew a lot about him, but I learned a lot about Bill Cosby as the years went on, like his struggles going into that whole industry, where it was tough for a lot of the brothers and sisters to make it, in the industry, what you had to do in order to make it. So, no, he laid the groundwork for a lot of people, regardless how you feel about what happened. You know, a lot of things were going on during those times, and he wasn't the only one that was almost like no one. So, but anyway, that's just that was just tough for him. But hearing him come in and speak, just having his presence, um, it was interesting. So the first time was my freshman year. He came in and he spoke to the team. Now the thing about it is the head coach at that time, Ron Dickerson, he was a devout Christian, all right, and didn't use any profanity, didn't drink or anything like that. You know, he was that was just him.
Yeah.
Bill knew this, and from what I understood, I could be wrong, but I think his salary may have been paid by Bill, not sure, but he was a big proponent in getting Dickerson hired there. All right. So got him there. So when Bill came in, understanding that, you know, Ron Dickerson didn't want like a lot of cussing and swearing and like that, Bill laid in.
Oh,
Oh God.
And I never heard, and you wouldn't think. I'm like, this is Mr. Cosby. The Pudding. Oh
right.
my God. If that wasn't Rudy Ray Moore or Red Fox, he was
Wow.
funny, but you know, it was more funny, you know, the cuss words that he could put together. It was, and he would look back, Ron, knowing he couldn't say anything. He's like, I want you to effing get out there. It's like, can I say that? Is that our, can I say?
Oh man.
That's great.
So
That is
yeah,
hilarious.
but yeah,
That
he
is,
was no, he was no, it was good. It felt like it was the right choice. And
yeah.
interestingly enough, it was one game we played. We didn't play very well. Some guys didn't play very well, and he called somebody out, like because
Mm.
he came in and spoke afterwards, and like, who is number such and such? Who is this guy?
Mm.
Dude was like, that's me, man. He was like, oh, that's me, man. He was like, you played the position that I played. And he was like, you played just like how I did. And he
Mm.
said, scared. That ain't good. I mean,
Mm.
laid into him. And ooh, yeah, it
Wow.
was it was like this is
Yeah.
Mr. Cosby getting him. Like
That's
it wasn't
great.
no he wasn't he was America's dad that time in that meeting as well. Just a different type of dad. When
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah,
A way too honest one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
way too honest one. Yeah.
Way too
Yes
honest, man.
indeed. But
So,
no, it got
so with the experience of Temple, with the experience, like because we understand coming from Irvington, New Jersey,
Yeah.
mhm,
there's a struggle and there's a grit that we develop coming from that city. You know, coming from Irvington, coming from the North area, is a determination. Temple is a very very good school. At lost him. Sorry.
Did you disconnect?
Yeah. All right. Can you hear me?
I got you now.
All right. Temple Tough University, academically, going to be difficult. It's very clear that you are bright to graduate within 3 years. So mentally, education wise, athletically, you had all of this stuff going. You meet America's dad and Bill Cosby.
Mhm.
From that motivation, from that inspiration of all that you're doing, all that you're accomplishing, you've already superseded everybody that we would have known coming from Irvington. Your transition into being drafted into the NFL, fourth round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What was that old-ish moment that I'm about to go to the NFL for you? What was that like? I'm really going to the NFL. What was that moment like?
Man, that was really like when you hear your name called. Like I heard my name called, and you know, it was just like a rash of emotions because I knew I could have went anywhere from the second round on down to the
Mm-hmm.
sixth round. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, hear so much things from different agents and whatnot. And when the agent that I chose, he gave me the for real. He was like, "You're not going to be a first rounder." He was like, "You can have first round talent, you know, but that's not what the NFL is about." You know, he's like, he said, you'd be a long shot for the second round. You know, you can be a third rounder. He said, where I got you at is fourth through fifth round. He was like, if you slip, you don't do well in your drills or something, you could be sixth round. He's like, if you're gonna be a seventh, I'd rather you be a free agent to pick wherever you want to go. He was like, but he said, no, I think you'll be a second day guy. And everybody, like, this first day draft was 1 through 3.
Right.
And I was like, I got to be a first day guy. Mad, all these guys get picked ahead of me that I thought I was better than. And once before the draft was over in the third round, I left the house and just went out for a walk. And next day, the draft went on, and midway through the 4th round, I saw Dallas come up on the screen, and I heard my name, and I thought I got drafted by Dallas. I was like, I'm going to Dallas. My mother comes yelling in the room because I was at home, and she's like calling me my middle name, and come here, this and this. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to Dallas. She was like, yeah. Then I see, and it's like, no, you're going to Tampa. I'm like, oh, Tampa, okay. And it was strange for me because I met with Tampa, with the whole staff. And when I say the whole staff, almost like the whole organization. Some of these people, I didn't know who they were. Like, I understand it a lot better now, but being young, coming from, don't know what's going on. But during the Senior Bowl, which is an all-star game that you're invited to, like the top all-star game that you can be invited to, where the most scouts are, the general managers, everybody's there, and they're on the field, like in the way of the drill. Sometimes it's it's like, Coach Belichick, can you back up, please? They're looking, and so I got an opportunity to play in that. And you get messages on your phone and notes on your door that such and such, they want you to come down. Kansas City Chief, they want you to come down for testing, for a conversation. Tampa had invited me to come down, requested for me to come down. And I go down, and it's a big oval table, and around it are all these people, and behind them are other chairs, and then some people standing up in a corner. So what those people standing up in a corner, what I understand now, those are the scouts, the low-level scouts, all right? Scouting assistants, some of the area scouts. If you're the people that are sitting behind, then those are some area scouts, some regional scouts, some people that work in the building, and obviously the people that are in the front of the table, general manager. This is assistant general manager, the coaches, position coaches, and everything. At the head of the table, I was sitting in like the middle of the oval table, and someone was asking me questions here and there, and I get it from there. The person asking me questions, everything directed in front of me. On my left, Tony Dungy was sitting there. He did not say a word. I knew who he was, didn't say a word, and he had his hands in his chin, just listening, just looking at me, just studying me. Didn't ask not one question. So I'm answering the questions and this and that. And so anyway, after that, all right, okay. And that was it. And I leave. And I felt like, because they say sometimes you have good interviews, sometimes you have bad ones. And I felt like that wasn't a good interview. And I'm like, I know one thing, I ain't going there. So when he
Tony was game mugging you, that's why you like, you like, you make me uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would make eye contact, and he just was straight ahead, just looking. I'm like,
he was trying to see if you was gonna sink into yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
themselves out of these jobs because of that type of treatment.
True indeed. And some of the questions, I remember how they were geared for a reaction, and I felt like they were watching for a certain reaction. But when I got drafted by them, that feeling of, it was a relief, and it was it was just great, because all of the anxiety and the fact that I wasn't a first rounder, second, third rounder, that was all gone. It was like I got an opportunity.
Well, you had a job. You like cool.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
What's funny about you saying you thought you got drafted by Dallas? I didn't know this, right? Is that the pick before you was owned by Dallas,
Yes.
and the pick after you was owned by Dallas.
That I didn't know.
It's like they drafted around you, so I could
Right.
see very easily.
Well, no. What's funny is this is the part that's funny, right? They drafted before you, they drafted after you, and you still end up a Dallas Cowboy finishing your career.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
So it was meant to be that you were gonna be a Cowboy somewhere in there. You know what I mean? So that's insane.
It's funny that you made that connection, because another connection that I made was when you were in high school and your brain was, I'm going to Miami. You were going to Florida. You were manifesting that already.
Come on now. Come on, Irvington.
It just took a little while, but you got there.
Oh man.
It's all
right.
I mean, really, all full circle. And everything. Even with the two teams playing, you're gonna pick whoever wins, that's the team that you're gonna choose. The Steelers
and hoping
win.
that it was Dallas. Yeah, you're
there
right.
You go. So it
right.
was all lined up for you. Yeah.
That's
and I felt like it, like I mean, I felt like I always felt like God had a presence in my life, and I everybody has their own testimony, but there was so many people that came into my life, you know what I mean, whether good and bad, where I could see this person made the wrong decision, this person made the wrong decision, and I learned from it, and it was just like, and then when I got people that actually gave me words of advice, or they were in my corner, it was just like, okay, this was just meant to be. Like the conversation that I had on the phone, because once I got drafted, then the team, they called me up, so the first person that I spoke with was, it was a secretary, and she said, okay, you just been drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we're going to put you on the phone with some of our coaches now. Coach Dungy will be on the phone later, but they put me on the phone with, I got Joe Marciano. Joe Marciano was a special teams coach, and introduced himself to me, and it wasn't company. It was he was like, yeah, Alshermond, this and that. He was like, let me tell you, I went on campus, this and that, and such, and I asked about you. I found out, such and such about you, He said, I went to my spot, such and such at the Owl's Nest and this and that. And I'm like, your spot? And he was like, he said, so I graduated from Temple, in like 70 something like that. So that was that Temple affiliation there. Put me on the phone with another guy, Clyde Christensen, who was affiliated with Temple as well. He was the quarterbacks coach. And I spoke with Clyde for a while. Then I got on the phone. So there were like 2 or 3 people that were affiliated with Temple somehow. The general manager, he had an affiliation. He had a Penn State affiliation. He had a Jersey affiliation. And it was just like, so, and when they do their research, they do their research because they want to know who's coming in that building.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you're our guy, regardless of where you think you could have went. We're happy to have you. And they might say this to, everybody, but the linebacker coach said, Lovie Smith, he was like, you were our highest. He said, you might have not have been the highest rated linebacker in the draft. He said, but for our qualifications, you were rated the highest on our draft board. He was like, all of that included, like everything included, you rated out the highest. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that's about or whatever, but okay, cool. I'll take it. And I spoke with Coach Dungy, this and that. It was great. Right on cue, my mother got on the phone. Hey, Coach Dungy, I always liked you. Well, not like that, but I was like, oh my God. So she's like, I'm gonna make sure he's in shape. He's gonna get down there. This and that.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Like, thank you, Miss Singleton. And he was like, now, are we gonna see you down here? When we're playing, you're gonna see me, absolutely. This and that, So I was just like, all right, cool. Um, but yeah, but that thing, it was heaven's. I mean, it was heaven sent. And I might have mentioned this at the men's program, Talib, where um, during that time, a lot of the teams, they were making sure that they had the right people in their building because a lot of athletes were getting in trouble off the field.
Mm-hmm.
And they're losing money, and it's just making the league look bad. So the one thing that it really impressed me about the due diligence that Tampa did, um, is Lovie Smith. When I went down there, because you go down there for your what is it? It's the mini camp, and this was a week after you're drafted, and that was just the standard back then. So went down there, and at that time, you can go right through the airport and sit at the gate. So Lovie Smith was
Right.
there, saw me come off the plane, whatever, you know, had a bag with me, and he was like, "All right, come on, let's go." Grab one of my bags, and he was talking. He said, "We're gonna go to the hotel first, and then I'm gonna take you over to the complex." So when we went to the room, showed me the room, sat down. He said, "Come in." He's like, "Sit down for a second." And he said, "You know what?" He said, "I want to tell you why you're here." He was like, "First of all, you're here." He was like, "I don't know what you've heard, but," he's like, "some guys, they go into camp and they feel like they got to have their chest out. They got to do this." He was like, Coach Dungy don't like a lot of fighting in practice. He don't allow that. He was like, "We already know how tough you are." You know, he's like, "So, we not taking swings or anything like that." He said, "We don't have those type of people." He was like, "When you come in the locker room," he was like, "we got a locker room full of good people. The ones that you might need to stay away from, you'll learn." He's like, "But you find yourself a good veteran, and a lot of good veterans are in the room that you in." He said, he said, but, he mentioned guys. He said Hardy Nickerson is who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and was one of my favorite linebackers. So
Mhm.
that connection right there, you guys just helped me connecting all over the place. So that connection there, he was one of my mentors. Of course, Derek Brooks there. You know, a bunch of guys, even some of the younger guys, Jeff Gooch, just good people.
Yeah.
So Rufus Porter was another older guy they brought in, another mentor, just good people. So, but he told me, he said, we had no idea who Al Singleton was, during the before the Senior Bowl. He's like, the scouts, they said they did their work on you and everything, but he said we did a deep dive into. He said we knew that you could play once we saw the film, and we saw you on the film on the field at the Senior Bowl. He said, but he said we had to find out like who you were, and he said a couple of our scouts, and I don't know if he said a coach or if he was there. He said, but they asked around campus, like, does anyone know Al Singleton? And they were in a building called McGonigal, and that was where we worked out, where a lot of the athletes, where they were there, they were stationed there to work out in the facility. So they asked the custodian, do they know who Al Singleton is? And the guy said, yeah. He said, Al Singleton, he actually worked at the R.W. Brown Center, and he was coloring. He was coloring like after his work hours with my daughter until somebody came to pick her up, like during the summer. That's where I did my junior internship, my field work. And it was just like, he was like, once we heard that, he was like, we knew that, you're our guy. Our mind was made up. And
Amazing.
he said, yeah, yeah,
That's
he said,
amazing.
once we, yeah,
A
yeah. And I was
custodian
just like,
helped you get the biggest opportunity
mm-hmm,
of your life at that point. Like that,
yeah,
that's amazing. That just shows like the benefits of just being a genuinely good person to everyone
Mhm.
all the time.
absolutely,
Like
absolutely,
If
yeah,
you're talking about Tony Dungy's reputation speaks for itself.
absolutely,
And then
yeah,
having Lovey Smith on that same staff speaks for itself. Right?
yeah,
right, right,
We're talking about two high character African American successful coaches in the NFL.
right,
The first the two first black coaches to coach against each other in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And Bucks,
Right.
I mean Indianapolis and Chicago Bears. So everything that they was talking about, athletic ability, all of that stuff mattered. Your character is what stood out to them the most. And just off of the journey that you've had, the discussions that you've talked about just today, mom, dad, athletes, high integrity, growing up in a very tough city, graduating or having the ability to graduate in 3 years speaks about your character. And that is what is most important. That if we could talk to our kids, their grandkids, students, and people all across this country, your character is going to always take you farther than any athletic ability that you're going to ever have. So that's kudos to you, and that's a great thing to celebrate, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. I also throw in there the work ethic that you talked about when you were at Temple. Like that's
Yeah.
a mark of your character as well. Now, I'm pretty sure they already knew you were a hard worker because they could see your work on the field. They could see your work on film. They already knew that you could play the game, but
Right.
they were looking for high character, high quality people to bring to their team, and you fit the bill just off of the
Absolutely.
testimony of a custodian, somebody that they held in high regard in that moment. That's awesome.
hmm Yeah, it definitely is. I'm sorry, my daughter was offering me something. What's not a? That's fine. That's fine. That's cool. Thank you. All right.
Yeah. So
Listen,
I got some names that I'm
then
about
a
to
maid
throw out
pasta
here.
and offered me pasta, so I feel
Oh,
That's
blessed.
all good. Hey, get the pasta, brother. Get the pasta.
No,
my,
that's late.
my daughter
I'll
didn't
get
make
that
me
later.
anything. She's about to send her a side eye emoji or something like that.
Oh man. I got some names I'm gonna throw out here at you, right?
hmm
These are great names. All
Okay.
right.
All right.
All of this first group I'm gonna throw out there are all of your teammates. Some of your teammates.
Okay.
And
You play with Warren. You go ahead.
why are you throwing these names out there? What do you want from Al?
I'm gonna ask him specifically. I got two names that were his teammates, and I want to know what made them that special. Okay. The first name is Warren Sapp.
Ooh, what made Warren Sapp so special? Warren Sapp is one of those people that you really don't care for him.
Don't spit out let him finish, man. Dang. He's going somewhere. Let him develop it for you. Come on.
you really don't care for him 6 days out of the week, but on that seventh day, on that Sunday, or on that Monday, you're lucky to have him on your team playing, in the same uniform. You know, that's who may have changed a bit, but that was the personality of who he was. You know, it's funny. One of the teammates had said something like, "Our uniform is red." He said the only reason why he's even on this team, he chose to be on this team is because the uniform is red. And that was, that was like he's the devil. Stay away from him. So,
Wow.
but probably and make no mistakes about it, I played with a lot of great players. And when you throw that word around great, I've seen, very, very good, really good, great player, Barry Sanders, great player.
You ever tackle him?
Reggie White, I tackled him, yes.
So
I
you
got
were
him.
able to catch him. That's good. That's good. A lot of people can't catch him.
In the hole. It wasn't like, chasing them down from the side. No, it was in the hole, like somebody right there.
Yeah.
Can't go nowhere, Barry. Got you.
Well, he'll be slippery and then you see him go in there and then come right back out and run around it.
Right.
That's amazing. I'm sorry, keep going, man.
Yeah, no, Reggie White, great player. Warren Sapp, great player. And the reason why I say great and not from a personality standpoint, great player, is there were times when you know, I've never been able to watch someone on film and just be awed by what they did. It was some things like, remember we played St. Louis, and remember during a film session, you know, it was after the game, and I mean during the film session, you know, we're watching it, you know, watching the film, and you know, coaches are making their points and everything like this, and like some of the guys they tap each other and it's like watch 9-9, watch 9-9. It was a play where, you know, he might have been double teamed, split the double team, you know, shed a blocker, picked up the running back, and just slammed him. It was just like moving at a different pace, different, just at a different level. And it was just like one of those games you've seen that. Like there's like I've heard the same thing about LT where, you know, you see like some of these things like the LT's greatest hits, and they have people commentating his teammates, and they talk about how great he was. And in the games where you say he just took over, like I really understood and felt that presence where he took over, and it was just like you're not gonna block me. Like I don't care what you do, like it's a problem. Like, and it was like it was times when he was able to do that, and as great of players that were on that team were, you know, where John Lynch was a intimidator, smart guy, but you come across the middle, you're getting laid out. I mean, you know, great player Derek Brooks, you know, smart, you know, instinctive. He would, I mean, just understood what was going on, had an uncanny ability to jump routes, you know, or even understand the route, just the timing that he had to get the interceptions, you know, to make the quarterback uncomfortable and getting those windows. You know, I still, you know, he'll explain it. Still don't understand like how you did how you did this.
Wait a
You
minute.
know,
Hold up. I flag on a play. I got an objection because if I remember correctly, yes, you did play with Derek Brooks when he was Mr. Pick
mm-hmm,
Six or whatever. Like he was
yep,
like you throw
mm-hmm,
it, he catch it and run it back. But then you went to the Cowboys, and on Monday Night Football with the great Giants Cowboys matchup on the air for everyone in the world to see, you picked Kerry Collins clean and took it to the house.
Yep.
So you learned
yeah,
something.
yeah. No, I definitely. And it's funny about that is, you
And
know,
you hurt
all
my
the
feelings
guys.
too, by the way. You hurt my feelings. But keep, sorry.
But yeah, it's funny, Derek Brooks, because all the guys we stayed close after that, and you know, wish the best for each other. But he called me up, you know, left a message after the game, said, you know, like good pick, you know, nice pick on that one. He threw it right to you, but nice pick.
Oh, come on. That's just called being in the right place.
Exactly.
He didn't mean to.
Right. But
There's another
no.
player.
Mhm,
You Warren Sapp, Derrick Brooks, Keyshawn Johnson, but there was a running back on your team that I know you had to go up against in practice,
mhm,
and he was a mini version of Christian Okoye, but he
mhm.
was not of the African descent. He was certified white boy, big time runner. We call him Mike Allstott. He also was your teammate on that Super Bowl
Yeah,
team. What
yeah.
was it like going up against him? Him being that powerful back, you being a linebacker, having to tackle him in practice. What was that like? How good was he? Was he as good as we thought he was?
No, Mike is damn good. But I tell you like this, I only got a chance to square up on Mike Allstott one time in practice and took him down.
Mhm.
That never happens because that's not allowed. There's certain people that you don't touch. Quarterback, it goes without saying.
Right.
Like you don't touch the quarterback. You don't hit work done. You know, um,
He was
you don't
small.
like certain. Yeah, he's small, but he's so shifty. You know,
Yeah.
but we need him. That was the you know, might
Yeah.
have hit him too aggressive on a one time in practice, and guys like kind of, you know, like we don't need him, like, and it all also lets you know like, all right, this is a guy that we're like that we need, you know, not necessarily you, so don't do it again. You know, the
Right.
coaches, they'll let it be known. So
Yeah.
but no, you never really never got a chance to hit certain guys. Not that you would want to, but and it was a good philosophy for a lot of these teams. It's like, he's a battering ram. He's going to go through so much punishment in the game. Why send them through that in practice? That was the difference between the professional mindset of their approach to the game, their approach to practice. It was like, be a pro, learn what the pros do. That's one of the things that I had to learn coming from Temple, where it got to the point we weren't winning enough, and the coach said, we're not tough enough. We got to practice. We got to tackle full pads on Friday. Now, mind you, we had games on Saturday, but we're in full pads tackling on Friday. And, but after, you thud up, during training camp in the pros, and there's a portion of time where they say, okay, it's full contact to the ground, all right, in certain scrimmages, not very often at all. And after training camp, when we're in practice, I didn't understand the tempo. So I went, boom, got somebody, it might have been Warwick, I'm not quite sure. And they blew the whistle, stopped practice, and looked at me like, what are you doing? And I could remember Lovey coming over. He's like, what was that? What the crap was that? So I just made a tackle. He's like, we're not in training camp. You can't. He's like, did you do that in Temple? I was like, yeah, we tackled every day in Temple. He said, that's why y'all didn't win. he realized like that was just the speed I was going.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, look, big guy. He's like, no, we don't tackle. He's like, training camp's over with. He was like, we don't hit our guys. We're going to need them. And he was like, he was like, just don't, stay off the quarterback and, just tag off. Don't even thud them up. Just tag off.
Yeah.
And, we dapped it up, work. You know what I mean? Because it was just, but no, we never, I only seen, and I ain't going to go into whole detail with this, but there was there was a player that took a cheap shot at Allstott during, it probably wasn't a cheap, but just went a little bit too hard and thought that he got the better of him. I can remember Allstott saying, okay, all right. And then it was like, okay, we going game speed. And I wasn't in. That was I think that might have been the first unit, some of the plays that they played against each other. And I was watching. I was like, oh, this is about to get good. And it was like the coaches calmed it down. Like, no, we're not even getting ready to do this.
So, like, it's about to get violent.
Yeah. So
now on the Super Bowl winning team, on that roster with Derek Brooks and Quarles, is that the other?
Shelton Quarles, yes.
Quarles, the other linebacker. Were you the biggest of the three of them? Of the three of y'all?
What's that? Well, I always call Shelton Fat Boy. Like Shelton could get as big as he wants to.
Gotcha. You were the tallest.
I was the tallest, and it probably got to the point where I was about the heaviest.
Okay.
At that time, we had still had the defensive staff in place, but it was known like the philosophy of the defense and the defensive coordinator, the late Monty Kiffin, was they didn't want their linebackers over 230. Yeah. That was their thing. Like, no, we want you to be able to move like DBs, like defensive backs. Yeah. And I can remember I think when I got there, I was about 235 or 233 or something like that. And they weighed us in, and I was like, Coach, don't worry, I can get up to about 240. Whoa. He's like, no. Get down, you're around 220. Like what you were at the combine, I was 224, underweight and everything. But he was like, no, you're right there, 225. Don't get no bigger than 235. And he's like, we don't want that. We want you, right at that weight. He's like, you'll lose weight in this heat, in this sun. Don't even worry about it. He's like, that's where we want you, as long as you can run. Yeah. Yeah. So that was their philosophy, their mindset. But I was probably one of the more stout guys that last year there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my last year there, because it didn't matter so much. I think when Gruden came in, we weren't quite sure. Before he came in, there was rumors that Bill Parcells was going to be the head coach, and that was a matter of fact. That was why the team hired his strength and conditioning coach, guy by the name of Johnny Parker. And he was a Giant strength coach for years and was very tight with Bill Parcells. So I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna be in a 3-4. You know, he like big linebackers. You know, I'm like, I got to see if I could get to that Carl Banks status. Carl Banks probably about 248. You know, so yeah, and that was another thing too. The reason why I went to Dallas. Bill Parcells told me, he said, one thing I'm gonna tell you, he was like, he said, you're my homie. You don't know that yet, but you're my homie. He was like, I know about you from Jersey. I know you're a Jersey guy. He said, when the main reason why you're in here, he said, because my man, Johnny Parker, JP Johnny Parker, said that you a Bill Parcells type of guy. And I asked him about you. He said, this is your guy. He was like, trust me on this. He said, if Johnny Parker said that, that's what it is. You're my guy. And I was like, man, that connection that I made right there at Dallas, I mean, in Tampa, it was, you know, carryover from into Dallas. It was just, you know, God sent.
Yeah.
JP was a good, really good dude too.
Yeah.
So we got along well.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when you're on the sidelines watching other teams' defenses play, were there any players that stood out to you like that guy can hit, or you know that guy's fat, like anybody with superpowers? I'm a
Reggie White, superpowers.
What was his superpower? He had a lot of skills. Which one stood out? What stood out the most to you? What was
He didn't look that fast, and and it was a point in his career where they were saying like he was over the hill, he was done. And I think there was a one of the games where our I guess our offensive game plan was to block him 1-on-1, and 3 sacks later, it was like, okay, midway through the game, now we gotta chip, we gotta double team, we gotta roll out something, and it was just like he was just too big and too strong, and that was on a guy, one of our offensive tackles, that when I came in, I had to understand when I came in as a rookie, and he got his hands on me, and that was the first time really I couldn't get loose. I was like, wait a minute, this is a different type of game here, and I'm struggling, you know. So when I seen Reggie White can do that hump move on him or just swipe his hands, it was just like this dude is different.
Yeah.
And you just knew it, you know. And you know, and the thing about Reggie, he didn't talk. I didn't see him talk trash. You know, he gonna help you up and this and that. And
he done blessed you. He done blessed you.
Yeah, he done blessed you. Yeah.
Bless him, Lord.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
and
right.
just the sheer respect that he had. That was him. Derek Thomas, from a defensive standpoint, the late Derek Thomas.
Yeah.
His get off was just, oh man, it was just ridiculous. And there was a preseason game where we saw him play. But those were the guys that I was impressed with. I'm trying to think of anyone else that I'm sure there's some other people that, you know, and there was some heck of a players, you know, offensively and defensively. But defensively, I was fortunate enough to play with some really great players. Like I didn't see very many people hit as hard as John Lynch hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I seen some fast middle linebackers, you know, it go from here to there, but no, Reggie White, Derek Thomas, as far as his speed and explosiveness, it was something else. It was mostly the D lineman where you can see it, you know, how strong, how quick the burst that they have when they get off the ball. It's a lot of those guys. I think I've seen Chris Dolman when he was kind of late in his career, you know, but no, you know, like certain guys, they just were, you know, pretty like young Larry Allen. Man, all my guys are late. The late young Larry Allen
Yeah.
is
He was recent.
Yeah.
He was recent.
So being a Tampa Bay, you had to play this guy twice a year. And when I tell you it was an experience to go up against that guy, Michael Vick.
Oh, yeah. Mike. See, yeah.
What
So Mike,
what was that like?
that was a speed that, made defensive coordinators have nightmares, especially ours. So
Mm.
it was it was known, like, on a Friday, that you don't make a mistake. You know what I mean? For our light practice, you know, going through our defensive work walkthrough or personnel scheme. And, just you don't want to make a mistake. All the stuff that we did during the weekend practice,
Yeah.
don't get on Coach Kiffin's bad side, the late Coach Kiffin's bad side. And but we just say, like, just know that we say this guy's going to be puckered up today because we're playing Mike Vick, and that was how Coach Kiff was, because the way we defended Mike Vick was we had some heck of some great pass rushers, Simeon Rice, of course, Warren Sapp, Greg Spires on the outs, but we just had guys that we can rotate in and that can get the job done. And with Michael Vick, I don't care how fast you are, if you can beat your offensive tackle, you know, don't get upfield too far. Don't rush past the quarterback because he'll drop back deep for a while, but then he'll go. That's just to create space and separation, and to create that space and separation for the linebackers, because if he gets you in open space, he takes an angle. If you don't take the right angle to make him cut back, you're not gonna get him. So I'm like, I always used to watch a lot of nature, and I would watch how the lions and, the how they would just track down the gazelles and do certain things, and you know, it's really just a team format. You know, it was just that was kind of the format that we used, where if Michael Vick, if I'm rushing on him and I get past my offensive tackle and he's looking at me, I don't want to keep running full speed. Other quarterbacks, I can run full speed. You look at Nick Bosa, he beats a offensive tackle and he's going. With somebody like Mike Vick, it was, okay, he's looking at me just like the Lions would do with the gazelle. Okay, they're looking at me. I've got his attention, you know what I mean, or her attention, what have you. The person that's coming from the outside in, you know, you're coming fast. Once he starts looking at you, then I'm coming fast. And other people are coming fast because we're trying to bottle you in. Because most likely he's probably going to make the first person miss, but it's that second, that third person, and we keep coming. You know, we're not looking to sack him. We're looking to contain him.
Yeah.
You know, and it was always not that he was a heck of a quarterback with a strong arm, but we always felt like quarterbacks that had that elite speed and elusive ability, God has blessed them, but they ain't blessed them with everything. Something's got to give. Like, you're not going to be the most accurate passer if you got all that talent. Like,
Right.
we'd rather you pass than for you to beat us with your feet,
Yeah.
So, that was our philosophy. But playing, I mean, he was he was a nightmare to prepare for, because there's some things you just can't prepare for,
Yeah.
and I look at it now to see how many quarterbacks have that skill set, not quite like Michael Vick's, but they have that skill set where they can escape the pocket. Even if they escape the pocket and they get 3-4 yards, that is demoralizing to a defense. I mean, just because the mindset, you got someone second down and 8, they can escape the pocket and get, 5 yards or 4 yards. Now it's a manageable down on third down. You're like, now you can pass and you can throw. If we got you at 3rd and 8, chances are you're not going to run. You're going to pass. So we limit you to, being one dimensional. So with Michael Vick, if you have a quarterback like that, I'm playing offensive coordinator. If I'm an offensive coordinator or a head coach, I don't care if I hit those long shots. If I can just eat away at yardage and make manageable make the yards manageable, the down and distance manageable, then that's, that's harder for the defense
Yeah.
because you gotta guess. You either gotta blitz, you either gotta, play back, so now you can do a number of things. It's just too much to think about. You always got to spy the quarterback. So if you got some good wide receivers, you mentioned Keyshawn Johnson, wide receiver that can be a possession receiver, great hands. It's going to be tough because now you can just hit some jump balls. You can do a lot of things. So he was a guy that probably the fastest quarterback that I've played against. The twitchiest. He was just
How
man, uncanny,
how was his arm?
strong arm, and
Yeah.
for someone that and you say you rather him beat you with his legs. He started to become really accurate. Like
Yeah.
he was never a guy that he's going to spray the ball off overthrow. He was no, he was pretty accurate, but in a strong arm.
So Al, I want to
So
ask you a seemingly dumb question.
hmm,
Who is more like Michael Vick today? Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes?
um, Lamar Jackson,
Okay.
because I'd rather Lamar Jackson beat us with his arm than with his legs. You know, just the fact that he can be, he can beat, he can do those things and beat you with his legs, and he- and it's crazy to say that because he's shown many times he can beat you with his arm now. So it's like it's not he's not a one dimensional guy, but I just look at it as the chances of, it's too many things that need to go right when the ball is in the air. And I'd rather take that chance as opposed to him, beating me with his feet because there's no defensive lineman that's going to catch him. Even if they have the angle, you're pushing them out of bounds, or you know what I mean? It's just it puts too much of a strain on the linebackers because now it's like I got to come out of coverage, I got to come up and chase you
Yeah.
and run, and it's just too hard. And especially now, I got to worry about like how I'm going to hit him. Like I don't want to hit him because if he slides and
Right.
I come
Penalty.
and I hit him and I'm thinking he's going to stay up, I'm getting that flag in
Right.
today's game. You know what I mean? So it's better to just try to catch him. But if you do that, he put that, I don't play Xbox or none of these other games, but what is it? What is it? A square button or
He had
X
that
something,
spin
whatever
on you,
button.
that
Yeah.
Yeah,
juke
whatever
button,
button that
The
that,
juke.
that they hit. Yeah,
Yeah.
that juke
with that
button.
invisible
He's
juice on
he's
you.
gone.
That's why I asked that question because I look at Pat Mahomes and everybody expects Mahomes to beat you with his arm. But
Hmm.
right now he's struggling due to a lack of receivers. And what we've
Yep.
seen is he's been beating teams with his feet. Like
Yeah,
he's
because
surprisingly slippery when he escapes out of the backfield. He runs like somebody's grandma, but you can't. It's just like you can't get him down.
yeah. So who would I say with Patrick Mahomes? He reminds me a little bit of. I say if I had to compare him, I would compare him a little bit to Brett Favre. Now,
Mm,
don't think I'm crazy, but when Brett Favre was a younger player, when I was a younger player, and we played against Green Bay, there was always a threat of Brett Favre beating you with his feet, with his leg. Now he had a gun. They always called him a gunslinger,
Yeah,
you know, and it could be feast or famine. But we knew that he was fast enough and athletic enough to where he could just run off 7 yards and get that first down. And that's where it was a problem because you're like, how do we not want this guy to beat us? If we play perfect coverage and we sink a defensive lineman or what have you, he's going to take off.
yeah,
And he's fast enough to get to where he needs to be and big enough. So he's going forward. That's kind of like Patrick Mahomes, where he got athletic ability. He still has it and good athletic ability. He's not Lamar Jackson with the
nah,
speed, but he's elusive enough. You can tell just from the Super Bowl, him making a play with his feet to
yeah,
get those yards to pick up a first down on was it fourth down?
Yeah,
He,
it
you
was.
know,
Yeah.
yep. So he's just he's great, but with his arm though, you know, I mean, he's just, these guys are like a lot of them, they are pinpoint,
Mhm.
they can get it to you, they can get it through those short spaces and lob the ball over your head. So he is, and that's how Brett Favre can do. Brett Favre can do a lot of things, and with the ball, he has some great receivers because every team we played during that time, they had good receivers. I can remember Detroit Herman Moore and you know uh, you
Randy
know
Moss. You went
Yeah.
up
Randy
against Randy
Moss.
Moss.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Awesome.
Yeah, Chris Carter, great
Carter.
hand
Yeah.
guy. But every week it was that. It's like my God, doesn't stop. But that's the thing about Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have that's why I give him so much credit. He doesn't have those type of complementary receivers that other quarterbacks need to be successful. It's always like, still, don't let Patrick Mahomes beat you. He can find a way to beat you with the aging tight end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
What's that wide receiver that keeps getting suspended for marijuana? But he's really good.
uh,
Well, he
but he
was.
was trying to. I'm
I'm
trying to
not
find which one.
This dude, he came back like 3 or 4 times and then would get suspended again for marijuana. He played for, I think he
played for Cleveland.
Josh Green.
Josh
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 Gordon.
Evans.
Gordon.
No, Josh Gordon.
Josh
Josh
Gordon.
Josh
Gordon.
Gordon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Josh
It's
Gordon.
time for them to bring him to Kansas City. He still got some miles left. I
Oh my
mean,
God.
he done missed more seasons than he played.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if he's 47 years old, I'm sure he got something.
Yeah,
He was a great receiver, man. Unfortunately, he just played at the wrong time.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just never saw him play enough. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if his best years were Cleveland or with New England.
Cleveland.
I'm
It
not
was with
sure. It was
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Yeah,
He played
Cleveland.
longer and had that longest sort of string of success with Cleveland, but
Cleveland. Yeah,
when he had
Okay.
Tom Brady throwing him the ball, it was scary.
yeah.
And then something happened, right, where he had to step away
Yep.
during that time period with Tom
Yep.
Brady. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
remember. Yeah,
I think he got
yeah.
was that another suspension or was it
Another
something?
suspension. Yeah, he struggled.
Suspension.
He's got
Mm,
Yeah,
that demon, man. It's a tough demon to shake.
yeah.
It's
mm.
just what it is. His ability is his ability, but sometimes his mental health and that struggle is real. Sometimes you just can't overcome it. You know.
Mm.
Facts.
Yeah.
You got anything else? I got one final question that we can wrap it up after that.
What if I don't
Shoot.
want to wrap it up?
I mean, me neither. I mean, hey, I
You,
mean it's
Man,
been wonderful. You know it.
I'm enjoying this, man. So I'm on
I,
y'all time. I'm good.
I
I
love it.
do have one question. Do you want me to ask that first, or you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to?
Ask that one first. Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So obviously we talked a bit about Tampa Bay. We talked about Temple. We talked about Irvington High School. It would be natural for us to just move right in and talk about the Dallas Cowboys, but frankly, I don't want to. I'm a Giants fan. Um, but there is one person I want to ask you about,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and that is Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys' most consistent pain in my behind. Well, most consistent entertainer. Have you
Mhm.
have you had a chance to interact with him? And if so, like, what was that like? Or what was it like working
Under Jerry.
on his team, I should say.
Let's see. I got you. So my first introduction to Jerry Jones was when after Tampa, we won the Super Bowl, and I knew I was going into free agency. So got a call from John Gruden, and he told me, he said, "Listen," he said, it was like the night before free agency. He said, "I know you're going into free agency, but we want you, this and that, and there are going to be teams calling." He said, "But just do me a favor. Somebody makes you an offer. Please come back to us. Call me. Here's my number. Let me know what's going on. See if we can do something." I was like, "All right, cool." Um, uh, went to Detroit. Came back. Went back to the Bucks. Let them know what was going on because I was in Jersey at the time. With my girlfriend at the time, my wife now. So I was I was with her. That was my after the season deal. So we moved back to Florida. She moves in with me, and we, we get the call that, Dallas, they're interested. And Dallas was interesting because they ran the same defense. They ran the cover two, Tampa 2 defense. A lot of similarities. Anyway, I get there. I think I'm trying to think who I meet with first. I meet with Bill Parcells first and everything, which was great. Everything he said was cool. Then he let me know. He was like, okay, the owner is gonna, owner Jerry Jones, he wants to talk to you. He's gonna talk to you, but he just let me know. I spoke to the person, already spoke to the person that I needed to speak with, so everything's cool. That was how Bill was. Like, this is the understanding. This is how I'm running it.
Yeah.
I went to Jerry's office, and he's sitting down. I think he comes in. No, he comes up. I knock on the door, opens it up, shake his hand and everything, and gives me a man hug. And he's like, "Oh, sit down right here." So I sit down on the couch, nice couch, like just laid out. Behind the couch are the trophies, Super Bowl trophies, just laid out, and just everything was just about like Cowboys history and everything. And we sit down, I sit back down there, comfortable. He's talking, and it was great because he was so knowledgeable about everything, and like he knew things, about the defense that were played. He was like, yeah, like giving me all of the benefits to come into Dallas. He was like, yeah, it's like, I know you played in the Tampa 2, you know, I want to do his accent. I know you played in the Tampa 2. I don't want to do that. I'm gonna mess it up, but he, he knew Tampa 2. He understood the position that I played. When the coverage, and when the offense motions or they split out a tight end, I can back up off the ball. Like, he understood football, so I was impressed by that. And it was almost like he wanted me to understand, like, I don't care what you've heard. Like, I know my business. I know this game. Like, I understand who you are and what you represent. What are the things that you can do to benefit from this defense? How we can benefit from you. And so it was like, okay, this and that, and you know, so I mean, it was cool because I'm like, man, he's different from what I thought. And asking about family and this and that, and and then it got down to business time. He was like, so like, what other teams, like what's going on? Like, what teams are you, talking to? What can we do to get you? He asked me, he said, what can we do to get you to stay here and not take that flight back? Like,
You got to make the number
okay.
high enough that that John Gruden won't even reach for it. That's all. That's all you got to do.
It was interesting because it already, he made it a point to say that, there's he's like, okay, so Detroit, they're in the mix or whatever, you went there. He was like, I'm gonna tell you now, so, basically, they're going to be Tampa's going to be a non-factor. Like what we'll offer is not, if you're not getting an offer from them, they're not even going to be a factor. So it's going to be us in Detroit. This is what we had to offer, and this and that.
This sounds like
And
what Philly probably said to Saquon. Go on.
so it was like, you know, I told him, I said, well, it was like on the spot, and like, your agent kind of preps you for certain things. Like, you don't need to say this, you don't need to talk about this. Like, I'll handle that. But when he's like, what can we do to offer you this? And you got to offer from here. Okay, here's what we're offering. We can do that. Um, is there anything more? And I was stuck with, I was like, listen, I said, I let my agent take care of that. I said, but I'm looking to make my decision soon. And I said, out of respect, I want to go back to Tampa and at least, let them understand, like, who's in the picture now. This is the number that I'm looking at. I said, I may not have a direct number, but I have that roundabout number. And it was just like, I was at one number And my agent called me once I left his office, Jerry Jones' office, and he let me know. He was like, so they went up by this much. And it was just like already.
Jerry's a closer, man.
Yeah.
You're a closer. You
Like,
probably didn't even want to go back home. Take these American airline tickets. I'm flying private now. What you talking about?
yeah, but it was just like basically it was, you're not gonna have an excuse. Like basically he's like, money's not gonna be an issue. He was like, nothing you said, has scared me. So, you know, you got to decide, what you want. And it's like cool, but it was good that I went and spoke with Parcells first, because Jerry would be like, all right, what is it? What we need here? Like, it ain't a whole one. Like, I like you, you like me. What we it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
But Bill was like, take your time. It's an important decision. You know, go back and see what it is and go from there. But so it was cool. And it wasn't from it wasn't just from a business standpoint. They looked at it. He looked at it. Bill did, where it was like, you're a good person. I'm going to give you the reality of this business, because I was a little disgruntled, because Tampa didn't make me an offer. And he said, don't be disgruntled. He was like, they got a million things. So I was a general manager. They got a million things that they need to take care of. He's like, they got to pay that middle linebacker. He was like, that's what your defense that's what it's predicated on. He was like, you can't go through another season with that offense. It was just like that offensive line. They got to get that right. And he was like, they're not going to be able to offer you what we can offer you. He's like, but you got to be comfortable with wherever you go. You got to be comfortable with that's where you're going to be. And if you make a decision, don't make it because you're mad at them. He's like, they can't, they can't offer everybody. You know what I mean? It's you just want you can't offer everybody a contract. It's like, you just can't. And he's like, and I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. He's like, don't come here if you're disgruntled. That's not the reason to come here. Right. He's like, we want you to come here because you want to be here.
Yeah.
And the last thing he said, he was like, don't come up to me with 2 or 3 other teams telling me that, they done made this offer. He was like, I don't want to play that game. He was like, let us know your final, whatever your final number, and we'll see what we can do to reach it, and it was great. He was honest. He was like, what you're asking for, he was like, it's right up there. He's like, you play well enough. I can see you, seeing your contract all the way through, but you got to play well. You let me know that. And I was like, okay. It was almost like going to Temple from high school, and them letting me know, like, you got to work hard. If you want to graduate, I'm going to make sure that happens. I took it that as, from Bill, like, listen, this number you're asking for is doable. I don't have a problem with it. You got to play well. You know what I mean? You can see it through. And I'm just like, all right, this dude being honest, straight up, different from the things that I've heard, you know what I mean?
Right.
And from both guys, from him and Jerry, it was a no-brainer for me. But Jerry's one of those people, he knows his business, he knows his team, like, he loves the Cowboys. Like, there's, he's a salesman.
You're not gonna
I mean?
You're not gonna make me like him, but
I'm trying to make you like him just a little bit.
No, man, it's,
like, oh,
it's war. It's war. It's his team versus my team. It's war. I'm the ultimate fan, man. It's on site if I ever see him. No, it's.
But he knows everybody that comes through that complex. Like, from the guy that comes in as a free agent, he'll come up to you, shake your hand, and that's something that was rare for me. I've never, I didn't see that from the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you a quick funny story. I'll make it real brief. The owner always comes through before the game and shakes everybody's hand at Tampa, right? Malcolm Glazer, the late Malcolm Glazer. So had the softest hands, like he never did a hard day's work in his life. So it was always like, man, you feel how soft his hands are? But he would just always come by, shake your hand, right? And and certain guys he knew, John Lynch, of course, Allstott, and certain guys, and other people he have to look up at the locker. Oh, how you doing? So he did that to me one day, and he came up, he said, "I've watched you for many years and this and that." And he was like, "I watched you in college." And I was like, "Oh." And everybody was kind of like was looking like in the locker next, like, in the locker down. They looking like, oh, like who is that? Like we just thought that was Al. Like, you've been watching him since college. So he started saying like those eyes. He was like monsters of the Midway. Where you and the sun was right there. And he said, "Dad, Dad." And I shook his hand. I walked away, and I just turned my back. And I'm looking. I'm like, oh, this dude think I'm Mike Singletary. And the dad and the son was like, "That's not him. That's such and such." And, and the other players heard it, so they turned around, and you can hear them laughing, trying not to bust out laughing. And I'm like, I don't believe this. But
wow. So this is
he
my
almost
last
almost
question.
knew who I was.
Almost.
Okay.
Almost.
Mhm.
Almost.
I mean, you became a Super Bowl champ for him, so I'm pretty sure
Hey,
he knows your
that's
name.
it.
He knew your name then.
This is my last question. All right.
Yeah.
Out of all of the people that you have met, coaches, players, maybe even celebrities, who's the one person that you was just like starstruck or had that moment like,
Ooh.
oh my God, that's that person? Who would that be for you?
Halle Berry.
Yes. Yes, it would be. Yes, it would be.
Holly Berry. Oh man, you know what? It was who did I see? And I was just like, wow. I don't know. I remember I'll give you a couple of I gotta give you a couple because I just can't quite remember if it was somebody that I'm like, oh man, like I've met like a bunch of guys, had guys, even like Bill Cosby, you know what I mean? But it still wasn't that like starstruck. But I'll give you a few, I'll give you a few times in my life where I'm just like, I'm glad that I actually met this person. I was in the presence of this person. Um, when I went to Temple, we went out to eat at the place Ruth Chris. And I mean, coming from Irvington, it was just like I could get a whole steak like this. Oh man, yeah. My mother's like, "Come on now, don't you don't you embarrass us up in here?" But I was like, "Nah." So one of the guys comes over that works with the that's affiliated with Temple, and he said, guys, in the restaurant is Teddy Pendergrass is sitting over there. So we asked if he wouldn't mind if a couple of people came over and said hi to him. He said he wouldn't mind, but just say hi. He's eating, so he said, but we can do that. So I got up. I was like, yeah, because Teddy, that's my guy.
Hey, baby. Yeah.
So Teddy was eating whatever, and I said, hey, Mr. Pendergrass, I love your music. And this and that. Thank you. Like, just like that. And that was enough. I was like, yo, I got a chance to meet Teddy Pendergrass on my college on my visit. So that was one time I always remember that. Um, I had my God, I had went to it was the time in the locker room. We used to have in Tampa. We just have some people come in, and like a lot of people they knew Derek, a lot of people they knew Warren, Keyshawn, what have you. So it was my last season there, and I had to get shot up before a game. I had an AC joint, so I had to get something shot in my shoulder to try to alleviate the pain. So I go in the room, in the training room. In there, Keyshawn is sitting there talking, whatever, and I turn and look, and I make eye contact, and the person makes eye contact with me. So I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And he actually said, "Hey, what's going on?" So shook his hand. His hand, it didn't swallow my hand up totally, but I was like, okay, I could see why this dude probably mentioned as one of the greatest, and he got so much good handle on the basketball. Um, but yeah, it was Michael Jordan, so he was up in the training room. So
Talib face lit up. I knew that's where you wanted to be going, man.
Yeah.
I was like,
What?
okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
he met the second greatest basketball player of all time.
See this? See this? See what he doing? You see what he doing?
The
You
second
see what he doing now? He
his name is
started
not
now.
King MJ. It's just
We not doing
MJ, all
this.
right?
We're not gonna do this with Al here. We not gonna do this with Al here, okay? We're not gonna do this with Al here.
He's not even Prince MJ. I mean,
You know what I'm saying?
it's
That's all
almost,
right. Don't worry about it. You
I
know,
mean,
hey,
his initials are
the
MJJ.
Knicks know about him.
It's almost like Michael Jordan Jr., but it's not.
The Knicks know about him. All that. He know all that.
Yeah. Okay. I hate you for that one. All right. No, that's awesome. Yeah, you saw it on the court, like how huge his hands were. Like this dude you could throw a basketball at him like a baseball, and he catch it out of midair, one-handed, and like it was nothing, just boom, and he's ready to go. But I mean, that is you mentioned somebody that's at a tier that not a lot of people talk about. Like he is.
And
he's sports
always. Yes, it's always good to meet, people like that'll just introduce themselves to you. Sometimes, sometimes I don't know how people will react. Sometimes I may not introduce myself to somebody, but when you're at that level, and it's just like, oh, what's up? Such and such. Like I'm in your house. You know what I'm saying? Like I introduce myself to you. I ain't introduce yourself like, oh, I'm Mike. Like you ain't dude. I know you.
You didn't have to.
No.
You probably had on some Jordans when he met you. And I wonder if he ever met anybody who had on like the full Michael Jordan, like Jumpman gear, and was like, "And who are you?"
but that's funny because under that whole Jumpman thing, he had some other athletes under that label. I mean, Eddie Jones, who was a basketball player, he was under the Michael Jordan Jumpman, and I think maybe Keyshawn was, Warren Sapp was,
Roy Jones.
Roy Jones, he was, I met him in Tampa because he and Derrick Brooks are so tight, from the same town or the same city.
It's the cola.
Yeah. But who else did I meet? It might have been, my agent did some stuff for Prince, and I had got me tickets to front row, like close to the front row, close to the stage. I was so close that I saw the owner's son sitting up in a higher section. I'm looking down like, how that happened?
Right. Did you look Prince in his face? Was that
what they say?
Said, don't you ever? My man said, don't you look that man in his face? Did you look him in his face? You met two of Talib's favorite top athletes for their sports, like Michael Jordan. A lot of people, the majority of people have Michael Jordan as their NBA GOAT. And then Roy Jones Jr. is Talib's favorite boxer of all time.
Yes.
So you at least got that over him, and you can always let him know that he never met them, he never will, because he ain't winning like you are.
So what we going? We're not going to do this. This is the stay winning show. And all he trying to do is get me to be a loser in this situation.
No.
And we from the same city.
No, you're not a loser. You're just not as much of winner. That's all I'm saying. You just
okay.
You're not a loser. You're a winner, but not as much winning has happened. All right, anyway.
That's why your school ain't got a football team. How about that? That's why you go there. That's what happens. Oh man.
So Al, this has actually been, I knew it was going to be great. Like I came in with the expectation like this is going to be fun, this is going to be great. This has surpassed my expectations, man. This is extremely entertaining. It's great getting to know your journey, getting to know you, man. I can't thank you enough for spending this time with us, and also, I mean, we got that Irvington connection, man. It's just, I think it's really impressive as well that you went back and you stay close to there where you can go reach back into the community and help out and be present and show people a good example of a professional, of somebody that's continuously winning at all levels of life, that they can aspire to, because that's kind of what that's what attracted me, pulled me out of I don't want to say out of Irvington. Irvington isn't all bad, but at least out of the circles that I was in, that wasn't going to lead down that path. But I'm just glad that people like you continue to show up in Irvington. We show up when we can, and just be an example for people to see and try to model whatever behaviors they like, whatever successes they like, and pull from us as much as they can.
Yeah.
I want to thank you, man, for spending this time with us.
Yeah.
No, man. I thank both you guys, Talib, Curtis. Thank you so much for inviting me. I was a little apprehensive about doing it because I'm like, okay, you're gonna ask me, you're gonna have me go back, and I ain't gonna remember something. I didn't lose my train of thought that much, so I'm comfortable. But most of the times, I can remember, recollect going back. So it was it was my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me, man. This is fantastic, fabulous.
Anytime, we might have to have you show up and weigh in on these GOAT debates.
Absolutely. I don't know what I'll rap to you guys and rap to Talib, and you know, if I don't know what kind of insight I can't get you Roy Jones or MJ, but if somebody's like involved in a certain area of football or something that's still involved in it, I can if you want to pick their brains about something, I can see if you want to go that route. Something interesting is, I guess, really, what I've learned is just the ins and outs of the game, what happens behind the scene, when they're actually going to pick a player for the team, like how much goes into that, you know what I mean? And, how much time, it's like, I say that because a roommate of mine is an evaluator. And it's so much that goes into that philosophy. It's almost like a totally different game from the game of football on the field that these guys have in the front office, and it's something interesting, So I do have a buddy of mine that is connected and involved in that area. So
connect us, man. It'd be great to hear, how would he evaluate the GOAT? Because Talib don't know how. Yeah. Anyway.
So look, what I would like to do, we're gonna wrap up the episode, and if you can't give us a few minutes, we want to talk to you about some stuff that we got some thought process on moving forward with the Stay Winning Sports brand and what we want to do with the community. So we want to kind of pick your brain on some of that as well. But man, this has been a wonderful interview, wonderful episode. Irvington's finest. We here in the building. Stay winning, and most importantly,